This brew method is going to be focused on the Eva Solo. It's an immersive brew method. It's going to have a little more body. It's going to be a little siltier. I don't want to say chewier, but just definitely body means a little bit more weight in the palate and the mouth. The aromatics are going to be a little muffled too, but the advantage of this method is that it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's a little bit like a French press without a plunger. And it's often compared to getting you as close to an actual coffee cupping experience as you can. So this is the Eva Solo. It's kind of sexy. It's got this wetsuit vest. You can imagine, you know, kind of Bo Derek coming out of the ocean with this. So this is the filter, if you will. So this takes the part of the plunger. This is the little cap that goes on top of here. And essentially, once you put it in place, you don't have to take it out. So it basically covers up the vessel, allows it to steep, and then you have this stirring spoon that will allow you to break the crust. I'm gonna put it on a scale. The scale has both the scale part and a timer. I'm gonna add 36 grams of coffee. I ground it pretty coarse, not as coarse as a French press, but definitely more coarse than, say, a Chemex or a V60. So I'm gonna add this in here on the scale and make sure I get my 36 grams of coffee. The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my kettle full of hot water and I'm gonna add it all at once to my system. I'm gonna add 525 grams of water. The water is not boiling. Again, it should never be boiling. Kind of the sweet spot for water temp is like, I'm gonna say 195 to 205. Our boiler in the shop is set at 205. You know, we kind of preheat everything, but honestly, by the time we're adding it, it's probably dropping down a few degrees. And I'm gonna start my timer, and I'm gonna start pouring. So there it goes. Again, 525 grams of water. And I'm not doing anything special with the pour. I'm just kind of pouring it in there pretty rapidly, making sure everything is getting wet. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my system together, take it off the scale so I don't break it. Don't agitate anything. I'm just gonna let it sit for 1 minute. And then at 1 minute, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this stir and I'm just going to go to the crust line. So basically, if you can imagine the water line, there's coffee floating here, that's the crust. And I'm gonna go back and forth. I'm not really stirring it, I'm just folding the crust into the coffee. So that's 1 minute. And my technique, again, there's a little bit of black magic here, but I go back and forth 5 times. That's my technique. And I put it all back together and then I zip it up. And so that's the system, and I'm gonna let it steep for 4 minutes. So that 4 minutes includes that 1 minute where I just broke the crust. So the whole system's going to sit here and rest for 4 minutes. The advantage of this neoprene jacket is, besides it looking sexy, is that it's maintaining thermal stability. So if we put 200-degree water in here, we want to try and keep it at 200 degrees through the entire extraction time. The advantage of not having a plunger is that you don't risk over agitating the system. What you're going to do is you can leave this entire system together and this little silver top floats up and down, and you pour gently. You pour not exceeding a 45-degree angle. So in a classic French press, you'd be getting ready to plunge, and the rate at which you plunge, how rapid you plunge, how hard you plunge, you're creating basically an extraction event, an agitation event that can further sort of extract coffee. So this runs no risk of over agitating the coffee because there's no plunger to plunge. I'm just gonna take this, and at 4 minutes, I'm just gonna slowly start decanting it. So you can tell already that the color and consistency of this cup, it almost looks like caramel. So it's cloudy, it's a little opaque. It's definitely not as sort of clean and orange as you get if we brewed the same coffee through a V60. So if you hold it up to the light, you can definitely see that bit of opacity. But it's not really, honestly, it's not going to be as silty as a classic French press. So that's it. So it's a pretty simple method. So, you know, I'm a firm believer that you marry the coffees you buy to a brew method and a style that you like to experience on your palate. However, if your lifestyle dictates otherwise, you pick the brew method that you're actually going to do in the morning. So if you're running 1,000,000 miles a minute and you can't focus, let's say, 3 minutes where you're pouring in a nice concentric circle and timing everything, but you can at least put it together. You can start a timer so that you can come back to the system at the 4-minute mark. This is a perfect system and you get a quality cup of coffee. Or if you like coffees with more body, this is a method to select to get a bigger bodied coffee.
What are you doing here? Looking for shells?
No, I'm just looking.